Yeah, we can just do that. Welcome to part two, everybody.
Yep. So I guess there was just like a bad internet connection or something, so it cut out and yep, now we're here.
Gotcha. Um, so I think you asked something about I can't remember, but essentially what I was getting to was what brought me back to the idea of the faith, of the Catholic faith. It wasn't really that at first. I think people go at that the wrong way when they try to convert people. They're like, please accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. And you really can't start there with an atheist, right? You have to start with making it clear that deism or theism at all is a viable outlook, that it could be possible. And I like to start with the cosmological arguments with that, that there is the first cause and that time is finite. We know that time is finite, okay? And if it's finite, then there must be a beginning. And if it were infinite, it would just never be tomorrow because there would be an infinite time in today. So if there is a beginning, there must be a cause. There must be a catalyst to all of that. And for me, that was clearly God. Um, Now, if you're talking about God, a lot of atheists, I think, they think God is like a bearded old man sitting in the sky. And if that's what you mean by God, then yes, I too am an atheist because that's not what he is. So once I realized that it was possible that there was a God, I investigated a lot of faiths. And I came to the conclusion that Catholicism was the true faith.
Wow, that's really inspirational and it sounds like how long did it take you to find it again? Like I know it can take people a really, really long time, like years and years and years.
I'm still finding it. I'm still, I mean, I think it's Jim Gaffigan. No, it's Stephen Colbert who always says he's a practicing Catholic. He's going to practice until he gets it right. I
Right.
really think that that describes my faith. I don't disagree with the church on anything. I totally respect the magisterium. And I just think the amount of depth and beauty and truth that there is in the faith, I could never have imagined how deep it was. I really thought it was just this shallow, um, one dimensional, let's be nice to everybody and treat everyone how we want to be treated. And that's Christianity.
Right.
And it's not. That's not what it is. It's also Jesus saying, you brood of vipers and flipping tables. It's not this hippy dippy religion that I thought that it was.
So, through your podcast and through your ministry, what are the people, or what are some of the people that you've been able to meet?
A lot of people who feel isolated, and I find that that's really a common. I meet a lot of mamas who are married to maybe men who are atheists, and that creates some struggles. Also, vice versa. I meet children, not children. Okay, I call them children, but they're like 18 to 20. They're not
Right.
really children. I'm not really that much older than them. But they just talk about how there's nobody in their peer groups who could accept this as the truth. Like they're really the outlier. They're really alone. And I understand that, especially when I converted. It's not that everyone who was in my life, I didn't want to be friends with them anymore, but it was kind of the beliefs that I was now espousing. They weren't okay with that. And so there was sort of this natural drifting away, or in some cases, people just being like, the Rosalie that I know is dead. And she is. She was a miserable wretch. So rest in peace. But she's much happier now. So I understand that loneliness. And a lot of people are like, well, I'm really glad that you found a truth that works for you. And I'm like, oh, no. This is not the easy path. This is not the path I would have chosen. And this is not a religion that I would have designed. It's not for the faint of heart. And I think that speaks to the truth of it because it is hard.
Definitely. So, let's see. Okay, so you talk about a variety of things, but we were going to talk about chastity today.
Absolutely.
So, um, let's just get started on this. So, what brought you to this? Like the idea of this?
To talk about chastity, um, there is,
Yeah.
it might be Cardinal Raymond Burke. Someone will write and tell us, but it said that the truth of the teaching of Christian sexual morality can be seen in the wounds of those who don't practice it. And that really spoke a lot to me because nearly everybody that I knew was living with their partner. Maybe, it was just a very open to the sexual revolution kind of relationships that I was encountering in my friends. And no one was happy. Nobody trusted. Everybody was using one another. And I just really saw that there was no good that came from this sexual revolution. All that happened is men and women started to use each other more than they did to begin with. And I think that women were hurt most in that equation. So I wanted to talk about it. Because even with, and I noticed this in my life, I felt like everyone, especially when I was younger, talked about, waiting for marriage and chastity, but I wasn't getting the message that very many people in my life actually expected me to. There were caregivers in my life, teachers in my life who were telling us about Planned Parenthood, who were telling us about the pill. And I'm like, okay, well, here you're telling us that we're supposed to be chaste, but on the other hand, you're telling us you don't really think that we can or that we will. So it just, it didn't send a very good message. I think parents and adults of any kind need to believe in kids, to believe in young adults, and to believe in older people who want to start being chaste. You can do it, and it's going to be hard. There's nothing that you're going to do in life that's going to be harder, and you will be so happy. I recently did a study of a large group of women who did and did not wait for marriage. It was about 300 women. And they volunteered for this. Nobody and I had an abnormally large group of women who did wait for marriage. Nobody who did regretted it. There was absolutely no one. They all said how hard it was, the fun that people made of them, things that were said to them. Nobody regretted it. And almost every single person who didn't wait regretted it. And that we're talking, they didn't just regret it. They had deep wounds. They were now tied to people that they weren't married to. Perhaps there were out of wedlock children, diseases, and all of these things. And I just saw such a peace in the women who did wait. And the fact that none of them regretted it was really startling to me.
Right. So obviously in a relationship, you're going to have that attraction there. But what are some of the guidelines you would say to follow with that? So like teens, it's normal to have that attraction, and it's not lust to want that with them because that's, chemistry and biology, but
yeah, and there's something good in that, in being attracted, in that we can find someone who we really want to be with, and that's great. But I think a really good rule, especially for the under 18 crowd, is never be alone. Never, ever, ever be alone. Don't even be alone in a car. Just don't be alone. I know that it sounds really old-fashioned and inconvenient, but that's really my best advice. That's like, and I also would really encourage everyone to go see the movie Old Fashioned. If you haven't seen it, have you seen it?
No, I've not heard of it.
Oh my gosh! Come on,
I know, right?
For one movie night. And it's about this guy, and he was really a partier in college, and something happens. I won't spoil the movie, but he changes the way he is, and he's chased for 9 years before he meets a woman. He has all these rules. This girl meets him. She's kind of like a free spirit child, and he won't step into her apartment. They can only be together in public, and so they create all of these great dates that don't leave them alone in a bedroom. And I'm like, wow, this is like so fun. Like dating and getting to know each other without your phones, without texting, can really be fun. And I think that movie does a really good job of showing that.
What's it called again?
Old Fashioned. And it was an independent film. Yeah, you'll find it. The movie poster is like two like stick people kind of. Mm-hmm. You'll know when you see it.
Yeah,
and I just can't speak. Yeah, I saw it and then I bought it immediately the next day. Like I rented it and I was like, because sometimes Christian movies can be like, I go and I see them because I want to support the industry, but some of the movies are not that great. This is a movie that I genuinely enjoy watching, and part of it was actually really hard for me to watch, especially when he was the guy goes through a point where he's kind of reflecting on his life and the harm that he has caused to other people and to himself. And I almost had to pause it because society tells you this is all normal, do what you want, consequence free, but that's the lie. There are consequences to everything that we do. And maybe you don't have them today, but I promise you, they will find you one day.
Right. What was it he said? He said, enjoyment and happiness aren't the same thing. And we get that confused quite a lot. So enjoyment is temporal, and you think you're happy in that moment, but really when you find true happiness, you'll know that you were completely fooled.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I think we live in a culture that's kind of just says, oh, well, we should chase what makes us happy. Well, that's subjective. Let's say, and on any given day, perhaps I'm not that happy in my marriage. No, I'm always, of course, joyful. But there are days where you're just like, wow, I really don't want to live with you right now. But the objective truth is that we're married, that we power through, that we talk to one another, that we take the time to fix this because there's an objective truth about it. And if we just chase happiness, maybe I decide to run out the door without really examining what's objective here. So, in the moment you might say, oh, I really want to be with this person right now, and it will make me happy. But objectively, you shouldn't be together, because the truth of the matter is that the marital act, or however we want to refer to it here, I don't know, because this is a show for teens. You tell me. The bottom line is that it is meant to be a renewal of marital vows, and if you haven't made those vows, you're lying. And I mean, I just can't think of any clearer. If you have true love for somebody, you will never lead them to sin, because you care about their immortal soul. If you have any male listeners, there's a really good show called The Catholic Man Show, and it's hosted by Adam Niles and David Minahan. And they talk about authentic masculinity a lot. And I think it was Adam who said that, he said, if I really love a woman, he's married, so he really loves his wife, he's not going to do something to endanger her soul. And I think that's really beautiful.
That's a wonderful attitude to have. It seems like we've really lost that in today's world, and we don't really think about that in the long run.
Right. I think we just are conditioned to think about life as a series of, I don't know, hookups, and then we pay taxes and we die. And it's just kind of like, life is more than that. It is. And even after you get married, if you want to practice the faith, chastity exists in marriage. And I think people forget that. And that's why we have a lot of the struggle that we do with the culture of death and the contracepting culture, I really think.
Yep. I think we actually ran out of time. So thank you for being on here.
Oh, okay. We ran out of time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if anybody wants to talk to me, you can find me at Rosalie Contrite on Instagram and pretty much anywhere. But thank you for having me on, and I hope this has helped somebody.
I'm sure it will. I mean, you gave really good advice in this. Thank you.
And watch Old Fashioned, Kaylin.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Bye.
Bye.